Hi, my name is Eric Miller. I'm the product manager for Federal Rifle Ammunition, and today we're here at Range Day at SHOT Show 2025. What we're talking about is 7 Backcountry. So we just launched the new cartridge earlier this month, and it is a new cartridge for us. And what we've done is taken the traditional cartridge, pushed the performance, and if you think about where we're at today with the regular standard legacy cartridges, 7 PRC, 7 Magnum, as suppressors get easier and easier to use and acquire, we've been cutting our barrel lengths down. And what happens is we lose all the advantages of those great cartridges. And what we did at Federal was looked at that and said, how can we shoot a short-barreled rifle but not lose performance? And with 7 Backcountry, we are shooting a peak alloy case. What that allows us to do is shoot at 80,000 pounds of pressure, where your traditional legacy cartridges are somewhere between 60 and 65,000. So if you think about 80,000 pounds of pressure in the chamber, that allows us to push a 170 grain bullet down a 20-inch barrel at 3,000 feet per second. So a faster, shorter barrel, compact rifle in that overall package for the rifle manufacturer. It's a standard long action cartridge. It's not a Magnum bolt face, it's just standard. Think of it, it doesn't have a parent cartridge, but if it did, it would be a 280 Ackley. But it is its own cartridge, and it is peak alloy, so it is essentially, think steel is what it's made of, and that's how we get the 80,000 pounds of pressure. When we're talking about 7 Backcountry, and I say peak alloy, it is a steel case. It's a steel alloy is what we've used to essentially handle the pressure of the new case. And I know that it will get compared to some of the Eastern Bloc 7.62 rounds that are out there, think Wolf, Tula. It is not the same steel, it's not even close. This is a high performance alloy. It's the same, essentially the same alloy that is used in safe walls, nuclear reactor walls. It is different. The other question that comes up a lot that we've gotten, is it reloadable? It is reloadable. It'll have a little different process than what you would reload as brass, and we're working through how we're going to put that data out there. But the big question, is it reloadable? Absolutely, it is reloadable. Some of the other questions that we've gotten, barrel life, throat erosion, because we're going so fast, we don't have that with 7 Backcountry. And the reason, because if you think of a standard long action, we're not really throwing that much powder, or as much as you would think, down the barrel. So we do not have a throat erosion or a barrel life issue with this. It just, because of the amount of powder contained within the case, just we don't come up against that problem. When we're talking about 7 Backcountry, another big question that comes up for us is recoil. And again, I'm going to talk about standard long action. It's the amount of powder. And if you were to compare it in recoil, it would be equal to or less than 7 PRC. I think a lot of it depends on the gun, but for overall sake of argument, if I were to compare the two, I don't know that most of us would be able to tell the difference, and I would actually say that 7 Backcountry is less. It just depends kind of on your recoil sensitivity and the rifle setup. A lot of what we've been working through in the development of the cartridge has been partnering and collaborating with firearms manufacturers. When we launched earlier this month, we had 13 gun partners, and within that 13, there are over 82 models available in 7 Backcountry. Hi, my name is Eric Miller. We are at SHOT Show 2025 and talking about 7mm Backcountry. Federal launched 7mm Backcountry, and what we have done is essentially revolutionized the ammo industry with this. It is a new technology. Peak alloy is what we are talking about with 7mm Backcountry. And what 7mm Backcountry is if you think of a legacy cartridge, 7mm PRC, 300 Win Mag, any of the essentially legacy cartridges, they all operate somewhere between 60 and 65,000 pounds of chamber pressure. With 7mm Backcountry and peak alloy, we are operating at 80,000 pounds of chamber pressure. And you're going to ask, what does that help you with? And what we're talking about is the rifle manufacturers have gone to shorter barrels. They've cut down, if you think about a legacy cartridge again, that has a 24 or a 26-inch barrel, and you put a suppressor on the end, my gun is now substantially longer, a little bit unwieldy. the gun manufacturers were shrinking down their platforms. And what happens is when you cut the barrel down, I'm losing performance of all these great calibers, these great cartridges that we talked about. And with 7 Backcountry, I don't have to worry about that. Because of that 80,000 pounds of pressure in a more compact platform, I am pushing a 170 grain bullet down a 20-inch barrel at 3,000 feet per second. So I am beating 7 PRC. And that is really what's turning and makes this technology great, is I can have a shorter platform, but I do not lose any performance, and essentially I gain performance over any other cartridge. And how we do this, peak alloy. Peak alloy is a steel alloy, and again, we're going to talk about that 80,000 pounds of pressure. That 80,000 pounds of pressure is contained in this case. The rifle doesn't know the difference. The rifle doesn't know if it's shooting brass or alloy, because the alloy contains the pressure, right? So the rifle itself doesn't know the difference. And that's what gets the performance that we need out of this cartridge. Federal, we're going to load it in 5 different bullet offerings. We have 2 in terminal ascent, which is our bonded 155 and 170 grain bullet. We have a 168 grain Barnes LRX, which is your monolithic copper bullet. We have a 175 grain Fusion tipped, which is also bonded, but is molecularly bonded. And then we have a Berger Elite Hunter, which is a 195 grain bullet. It is the heaviest hunting bullet that we could find. It is a 755 ballistic coefficient, so cup and core bullet, but long for caliber, heavy weight, and those are the offerings. So we really cover, in that 155 to 195, we cover everything that you or I potentially could shoot within 7mm Backcountry. Depending on what you're shooting, what you're going after, in the 170 grain terminal ascent, to my right, you can look, this is a wound channel of an actual bullet that we pulled out of gel, made a 3D rendering of it. This is what it would look like going into an animal. This is 2 gel blocks long, but this is the 170 grain terminal ascent, and you can see the travel, and then at the very end, you can see the upset of the bullet. That is a bonded bullet. We always want, on a bonded bullet, you want to maintain as much weight as possible. So if that bullet leaving the muzzle is 170 grain, I want to be as close to that as I can, and that bonding process allows me to get generally 95% plus weight retention, so I'm essentially transferring all of that energy as I go through with the bullet. So in 7mm Backcountry, we talk about 20-inch barrels. On the packaging, we show 24-inch velocities and 20-inch velocities, but when you're looking at it and comparing them, and we're going to talk about this, the speed allows me to, I don't have to compensate for drop as much for windage, and you can look on, for example, this 175 grain Fusion tip bullet, out of the muzzle velocity, I'm 29.75, but I'm going to show 31.25 on the box, and that is because in most firearm ammo manufacturers, we show 24-inch velocities. So when you're comparing on the retail shelf, if you're comparing apples to apples, I always want to show 24-inch to 24-inch, but when we're talking about the rifle platforms that we're looking at, we're really looking at that 20-inch barrel and the velocities that we're achieving with that setup.